Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Deeper Look. I am so excited to have my college friend, Deidre Rogan, on the podcast today. I had the pleasure of getting to know Deidre at Fordham University when she was at the BFA Alvin Ailey program at Fordham, and I got to watch her dance then, which felt like such a gift. And now I get to watch her as a member of Alvin Ailey Dance Company. And I've gotten to see you a couple of times now on that stage. And it's a pinch me moment for me. I have to imagine it's a pinch me moment for you.
Yes, definitely.
So thank you so much for being here today, Deidre, so we can take a deeper look at your story. Let's start at the beginning. Like, did you grow up with the dream of being in Alvin Ailey? Did you grow up with the dream of being a professional dancer?
Firstly, hi, Julia. I'm so excited to be here. But from the moment I first saw Alvin Ailey's most known work, Revelations, the first time I saw it, I knew I wanted to dance for the company. It was such a moving piece that I just was so excited watching it, and I was like, I want to do that someday. I didn't know how I was going to get there or what I needed to do to get there, but I knew that was something I wanted to do eventually.
Revelations is so deeply moving and incredible to see you a part of it now. What did it take to get there? Like, take us back to the very start of your dance aspirations.
So I started dancing when I was 2, but, very, not anything serious. And then probably when I was about 12, I really just realized, like, this was what I needed to do. I didn't like going to school. I didn't like playing the other sports. I didn't like any of those things, but there was just something about dance that, I knew I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And then when I was 15, my teacher actually was the one who showed me Revelations. And she said, this is a world famous work by Alvin Ailey, and they perform it across the world. People come from all over to see this piece, and she showed it to me on YouTube. And she told me that Alvin Ailey actually had a summer intensive. So at the time, I was going to a ballet school. I had grown up as a competition dancer, but my mom had said, if this is something you want to do professionally, we really need to hone in on what it is you need to do in order to make that happen. So I started going to the ballet school, and I had a little bit of modern training at that time, and really decided if this was a place I wanted to go, if I wanted to dance for Alvin Ailey, I needed to have a much stronger modern background. So I started training with a woman named Cheryl Copeland, and she taught me the Horton technique, which is the main technique of the Ailey School. It was created by Lester Horton, and Alvin Ailey actually danced for his company, and then, made that the technique that was, the foundation of his company. So she started teaching me that. That way, when I would go to the audition, I would feel like I knew what I was doing, could feel like a pro. So I auditioned for the junior division summer intensive when I was 15, and I got in. So it was talking my mom and dad into letting me go to New York by myself for 5 weeks during the summer at the age of 15 was crazy, but they said yes. So when I went, I actually stayed at the Fordham University dorms and danced at the Alvin Ailey studios. And it was really in that process that I was like, I have to come here. It was my first time in New York City, and I absolutely fell in love. I loved the Fordham dorms. I loved Fordham as the school where it was located. And then having Ailey on top of that, it was truly a dive into what I would be doing if I went to school there. So I fell in love with Ailey. I fell in love with Horton. I loved all of the teachers and the performance opportunities. And at the end of the 5 weeks, I tried to convince my mom to let me stay, to move to New York by myself.
At 15.
At 15. And she was like, absolutely not, but maybe you can come back next summer. So when I was 17, I did the professional division summer intensive as well. And I knew the following year I would be auditioning for the BFA program. And so I just thought it would be a really great stepping stone. If like this was what I actually wanted to do, then I needed to spend that summer there as well. So I went back when I was 17 and did the professional division summer intensive. And then the following year auditioned for the BFA program and got in. And then it just continued happening.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll keep down the journey, but I think what you've already articulated is such a testament to even your teachers too, because they exposed you to what became your lifelong goal and dream and now reality.
Yeah.
And so that's incredible that you had that support system and your parents there to support you. When I watch, I just watched Deidre dance yesterday, so it's like fresh in my mind. But when I watch you all up there, it's like, the 10,000 hours, Malcolm Gladwell, but I look at you guys and I'm like, this is a 50,000 hours thing. This is to make it look that effortless and transport an audience the way that you all do through dance. When did it become obvious to you the level of dedication that would be required of you to make this dream come true?
I really think at the age of 8. I mean, even my dance teacher when I was 8, she was like, no, Deidre, you have to keep trying until you get it right. And I mean, I think she instilled that in me even more because she saw it in me and she knew I would not leave. I would not leave the studio if I was trying to, learn something or I couldn't get it right and all of my teachers, I feel like, sort of saw that in me as time went on. And now that I dance for a professional company, I see that in everyone around me. Mm-hmm. So I think it takes a really certain kind of person to pursue dance as a career just because it is sort of one in a million. And so I love looking around and seeing that now. And I'm like, oh, I thought it was weird that I did that, or that I had that drive to do the thing. And now being surrounded by people who have dedicated their whole lives to making it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's so demanding, not only physically, but of your time. Can you walk us through what a day in the life on a show day is for an Ailey dancer?
Yes. So usually, I'll say for me, it's different for all of us depending on what our rituals or things that we need to do to get us ready. But I would say that, most people wake up probably around 9:30, have their coffee, do their breakfast thing. A lot of us cross-train, so whether that be Pilates or running or just strength training of any kind. I like to run, so I usually go for a run in the morning.
On a show day?
On a show day, yes.
Wild.
And do abs, so that kind of, just to get your body ready, because going to the theater and not having moved your body yet is just sort of shocking.
Okay.
So then we'll have company class, either in the morning or afternoon or prior to the show. It just sort of depends on the day and what we're doing. But we're usually at the theater around 2 p.m., and we will rehearse and have class up until 6:30. So
for a 7
for
curtain?
a 7:30 performance.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So class is usually from 5:30 to 6:30, and then we'll have our hour break from 6:30 to 7:30, performance at 7:30. But the 2 to 5:30 block is left for rehearsals. So it's busy, and then you don't leave the theater, until 10:30, 11 o'clock after the performance is over.
Wow.
And that's usually, depending on how many shows we have a week. In New York, it's 8 shows a week. On the road, it's usually 4 to 5. So.
Wow. And what's a day like in off season? Because you the endurance that you all have to have is so shocking to me. I mean, some of these pieces are quite long, and you have to show up at 110% for every audience.
Yes.
So what's it like trying to keep your physical stamina up when you're not performing?
Yeah. I would say, because I like to run, that's usually my go-to. During our off time, I'd say I dance maybe once or twice a week just because I don't want to burn out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard to just, I just like to remove myself. So, you know, now that dance is my job, in order to keep the passion and the love and all of that alive, I like to take a break from it just because I want to go back and I want to be excited about, you know, performing and dancing and all the things. And sometimes it's just really nice to take that break. But as much as you are taking a break from dance, you know, you still have to go back and be ready. A lot of times we'll have a week off and then that first day back you're in a show. So you really like cannot just like lay around for the whole week. You're going to be in pain. So I would say, I mean, I like to run. So even if it's an off week, I'll run at least like 3 times just to like, you know, keep the body ready. But you're not going to lose everything in a week. But, you know, I just want to make sure that I can
You have
show
to stay
up.
ready.
Yeah. Because that audience paid to be there, you know? You can't show up on your... They don't care that you had a vacation last week. So, you know, you need to show up and be ready.
Yeah, and that is part of your job.
Yeah.
Let's go back to how you got this job. How many times did you audition?
I auditioned for 7 years in a row, basically, to get into the company.
Wow. And that's as someone who had been going to their summer program since you were 15, and you went to Fordham. Let me just add this note. I did not go to the Fordham Alvin Ailey School. I was just at Fordham. But I did meet Deidre at Fordham.
And Julia is a great dancer, but...
Different kind of dancing. But I just wanted people listening to know that I am not an Alvin Ailey trained dancer. But I share the love of Fordham and our time in New York, but I do think that your discipline and what you learned when you were little probably came in handy those 7 years of auditioning for your dream job. What happened in the interim? Take us through what it looked like after you graduated school. What came next?
So I was actually still in the BFA program when I got into the second company of Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. So I spent my senior year on tour with Ailey Two is what it's called, and 1 year out of college. So until 2016, I was in Ailey Two. And then when I finished, I auditioned actually my senior year and my second year of Ailey Two for the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater and did not get the job. So that's how most people would transition into Ailey, is usually after Ailey Two, they just sort of make their way into the first company. But that was not the case for me. So I started doing research and watching different dance companies around New York, and I really did not know what I wanted to do.
I have a question when it comes to auditioning,
Yeah.
mostly because I audition and I know my answer for my auditions, but I don't know what it's like in the dance company world.
Yeah.
Would you ever get feedback? Like, were you ever told why you didn't make it?
Very rarely.
Okay.
It's very like they sit at the front of the room, they watch you dance, you get cut. You
Similar to
leave.
acting. It's
Yes.
like you're a number and that's
Yeah.
it. Right. So it's left up to you to decide whether it ever happened for you and how to make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started, looking for different dance companies, and a few of my friends were performing at the Joyce as a part of Parsons Dance. And I had never seen Parsons. I didn't know much about them. And I was like, oh, okay, like I'm going to go to the Joyce. I'm going to go see them perform. And I fell in love. Like, I loved the company's work. I thought it was absolutely incredible. The dancers were amazing. And they were such a small company, and just they were out there just dancing the whole show, all of them. It was incredible. And I could really see myself doing that work. And so I started to take steps toward, making that a goal. And I reached out to my friend, and I was just like, hey, do you guys have a summer intensive? Do you have auditions? How can I sort of get my foot in the door here? And he was like, you should 100% attend the summer intensive. So I had been, working for the last 2 years, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. I just feel like a summer intensive is like sort of taking some steps backward. But I was like, okay, I see this as an investment. I see this as, a good use of my time to become affiliated with a place where I can really see myself working. A little side story. So the previous director of Alvin Ailey used to dance for Parsons Dance. So there was some connection there of, it was still in the
Some kind of
Ailey
path.
family-esque. So I went to the summer intensive. I paid for the summer intensive with my own money, and
What a testament to your humility, though, to say, you know what, I'm going to take this, even though some consider it a step back.
yeah.
I mean, really, that is, I think, really important for people to hear, too, that the path is not linear to your dream,
100%. There are so many side steps and things that ultimately were all of the things that got me there. It just, I, of course, in my head wanted it to go a certain way. I wanted it to go directly there, but I don't think I would be as happy now in Ailey if I hadn't have had all of those side stories.
Wow. Everyone listen to that. Like, that's such a statement.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, so I did the summer intensive. At the end of the Parsons summer intensive, David Parsons, the director, offered me an apprenticeship. And I told him I couldn't take it because I was living in New York City and I had to pay my bills. I had to pay my rent. And
Not cheap.
Exactly. And so I told him I just couldn't dedicate that much time to being in the studio if I was required to be there every day in an unpaid position. I couldn't make that happen.
Probably pretty scary to say that,
Yeah.
but also you knew your worth.
Right. And he said, okay, let's come up with something that you can do then.
Great.
So I was working in the office actually at the Ailey School, and I then took on what he considered an understudy position. So I didn't have to be there every day, but it was my responsibility to learn the pieces of, work on my own. So, and he said, if I call you and you don't know the piece, then I can't take you on tour. So I said, of course, absolutely. Like, I will learn it on my own. Don't worry. I'll come to rehearsal when I can. And he called me probably 2 months later and said, hi, do you want to come on tour next week? And I was like, absolutely. And he was like, okay, here's the pieces you'll be performing. You'll have rehearsal for 2 hours in New York City with a previous company member, and then you'll meet the company in North Carolina. So I showed up in North Carolina. I rehearsed with the company for like maybe 2 hours and then proceeded to be on tour with them for the next 2 weeks. He was pleased. So he asked me to continue performing with the company. And we actually were in Philly, and you came to the performance.
I did.
And it was that night he said to me, we would like to hire you as the 9th member of the company.
Oh.
So I then danced the rest of that season with the company, and then for 5 more seasons after that. And again, all the while, I was auditioning for Ailey every year just because I believe it's always important to have a dream. And so, I wasn't going to allow that to stop me from, pursuing my dream that I had had for forever. And then in 2022, I was finally hired by Ailey.
Wow. Yeah, lots of twists and turns and like things you would have never probably predicted would happen.
Yeah.
I mean, performing with Parsons that quickly, getting the phone call and having to be ready. Again, a testament to your 50,000 hours that you put in up to that point. So now you've made your dream come true. You're an Alvin Ailey dancer. Do you still get nervous?
Oh my gosh, yes. Constantly. Yesterday, I was so nervous. Like, the most nervous I've been in a long time. And for some reason, like when I have friends there, I'm like, I have to make my friends proud. And so I get really nervous for some reason. But
I think that's a good thing, because if you're not getting a little bit nervous, what are you,
Yeah.
Do you have a pulse? Right. Like, get with it. But I can say whenever I get to see you dance, I'm like a proud mom out there. I'm like, that's my girl. And you're so much fun to watch, just breathtaking, truly. I'm curious, I'm sitting there thinking, what happens when one of you gets sick or injured? I'm just so curious. Like, is it a little bit of a holy what do we do moment?
So thankfully there are 32 of us in the company, so there is a lot of coverage. But actually a girl this week got the flu, and I was only supposed to perform Revelations 3 of the 7 times it was performed, and I ended up performing it 6 of the 7 times just because, there are things, that need to be covered. I would say it happens a lot, and very rarely do we actually have to change the performance, but that has happened. If 2 people who cover the same spot are injured or sick, then we literally can't do that piece. So there have been moments where, you'll get a last minute message on Teams, and it's like, program change for this afternoon, and it's 3 different pieces that you didn't think you were going to be performing. So that's also nerve-wracking because you're like, wait, I wasn't prepared for that. But that's why we have the rehearsal block from 2 to 6 and all of those things. But yeah, sometimes it's like, oh, okay, we're just going to go out there and do our best because here we are. But I think that's what also draws us to it. It's always exciting because it's live theater, and of course we rehearse, and of course we practice and do our best to make, to control the uncontrollable. But at the end of the day, we can't control everything. Yeah. So things happen and things get a little crazy, but that's what makes it fun.
Yes, they do. Speaking of things happening, I know you have one story to share about maybe perhaps an audition that went wrong for you, because I think everyone would look at you dancing now and think you've always had it together and always crushed it. But can you share an audition fail with us?
Yes. I was auditioning for a company based in Portland, and the audition was in this huge studio in New York. And these studios get particularly hot. And there had to have been like 100 of us in this studio, like going for it. Everyone was trying to get the job, obviously. And they gave us a note, basically, and they're like, on this jump, we really want you to essentially do a full revolution in the air, but like parallel to the floor. We call it a barrel jump. And they were like, we really want your feet to like be in line with your head. And I was like, okay, if this is it for me, like if this is going to get me the job, I got to do it. So I really went for it, and the floor was so slippery with sweat, and my feet did not have enough traction when they came back to the floor, and I literally fell flat on my stomach in front of everyone and hit my head on the floor. The director proceeded to stop the audition to ask me if I was okay, and the room collectively said, as I fell on the floor. Needless to say, I didn't get the job. I was going to say, I went for it.
I don't know. I would be tempted to give you the job based on effort alone. But so not every audition goes as planned.
No, not at all.
And not every performance goes as planned. But what you are just, I can't get over the physical stamina. I mean, Matt and I were just like, they're still going. Like, how? What is the physical toll that this takes on your body? Or can you articulate that?
Yeah. I mean, there are just some days when you wake up and for some reason something hurts, or, something feels a little bit uncomfortable. I pray that I can keep my knees and my hips for my whole life, but I don't know if that, is how it will actually go. I see a lot of older dancers now, who are retired, and have had hip replacements and knee replacements and things like that, because it's my job every day. You know, I wake up and I go to the theater and we're jumping and running and turning and, you know, using our bodies in not normal ways. You know, I try to be as holistic as I can. I don't like to force things. I don't like to, you know, do things that don't feel good. But, you know, a huge part of creating dance is being in the process. And a lot of the process is doing the same things over and over and over. And in the dance world, we sort of say that's what creates injury, is, you know, the repetition of using the same joint the same way over and over and over is just going to put stress on, you know, on those areas. So that's definitely what's difficult about it. But at Ailey, we are very, very blessed to have a physical therapist who travels with us constantly, and we often have massage therapists in the theater. So, you know, we definitely receive as much care as we can. We take conditioning. I actually teach conditioning to the company. So, you know, we have that cross-training aspect to keep ourselves strong. As much as we need to be flexible, we also need to be strong. But I would say I feel pretty good.
Good.
I like to think I feel pretty good. So, yeah, I don't necessarily have, like, I don't wake up, like, you know, in pain every day. At the end of this week, I'm in a little bit of pain because we had 8 shows and 6.
In how many days?
In 5, no, not even, in 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And what is the average lifespan of a professional dancer's career? And is that something that ever crosses your mind?
Yes, it crosses my mind all the time as I feel I'm getting a little bit older. I would say the lifespan of a dancer is different for everyone. You know, it definitely can be cut short if you have a serious injury, you know, tearing something in your knee or, you know, tearing something in your hip, in your ankle, things like that. I mean, orthopedists and like orthopedic surgery now is amazing, you know, what can happen and what can be done and all of those things. And physical therapy is life-changing, but, you know, if there is something that is detrimental enough, it can definitely cut your career short. But I would say if you really wanted to, you could dance for 25 years. You know, I've already been touring with professional dance companies for 10 years, and I would like to think I have at least another 10. I hope. That's my goal. I would say 20 years is my goal for sure. But I mean, there is a dancer with Alvin Ailey who has been in the company for 27 years.
Incredible.
And I look at him every day and I'm like, I want to be you when I grow up.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. He is incredible. He's incredible. We call him Grandpa, but he is incredible.
I mean, that's wild.
Yeah, and he takes such good care of himself. I mean, I do a lot of things I take an ice bath every night. I love to cold plunge in my bathtub.
Ooh, every night. Wow.
Every night. But it makes a huge difference. And when you find those things that make a huge difference, then
Stick
it's
to
like,
them.
I have to do it now, you know.
What about the emotional toll of touring and the sacrifices that you have to make? I imagine there are quite a few.
Touring is hard. It is very, very hard. And the older I get, the harder it becomes. You know, when I was 21 and touring the world, I was like, this is incredible. You know, I had never been to Europe, and I got to go to Europe on my first tour ever as a professional dancer with Ailey Two. Mm-hmm. I was waltzing around Italy like no one could bring me down. So, but yeah, as I get older, it's harder to be away from family. It's harder to be away from loved ones. It's harder, you know, just to not see your people. But I also feel like I appreciate it way more. You know, especially touring with Ailey. We're in like the biggest cities in America, and, you know, we get to tour the world. We went to London and Scotland and Copenhagen this year, and we're going to Paris next year.
And this is all to packed houses, let me know. Like,
yeah.
every time I'm like, there are just so many people that love to watch you all dance, and they should. And that'll bring me to something else that I wanted to talk to you about, is audience etiquette. I feel like with our stupid little phones, it's gotten really bad. And as an audience member and someone who's been on stage, it drives me crazy because I, from an audience standpoint, don't want it to happen because it's distracting for me. But what's it like for you as a performer when people are not keeping those audience manners in mind?
It's distracting, and I hate that. I hate when something outside of what's happening on the stage takes me out of the moment.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like then it's not pure. Like,
Right.
I like when I perform and it just happens. Like, I don't like to be taken out of that world, because then I feel like I'm not giving what is naturally coming. Then I feel like I have to like act,
Right.
because it's not,
Like phone it in.
yeah, because I got taken out of the moment. Yeah. And phones ringing, or, I mean, we've actually had to put rules in place for like the ends of pieces, because so many people take pictures. And then when the flash goes off, they can see what's actually happening in the dark. The audience can see what's happening in the dark. So we have rules in place so that we like hold our shape until the curtain is all the way to the ground. That way, if someone takes a video or a picture, we're still in our...
That's wild. So the company has actually had to put rules in place to combat this issue. Yeah, I mean, the woman next to me yesterday was taking photos every number, and it takes the audience out of it too. And in today's world, I think it's more important than ever that we are able to escape when we go to a show like this. That is the whole point of art and dance and respecting it.
Right.
So I hope people can start to respect those rules more for everyone involved, because I do think it's so important. I'm going to shift to a bit of a heavier topic, and I'll give a trigger warning for anyone who has struggled with body image or eating disorders or anything of the sort. But body image in the dance world is definitely your physical being is your work and job. Can you talk a little bit about your experience and your body image and how maybe it's morphed through the years?
Yeah, it's been definitely a huge issue for me. I have always had a very muscular body type, and that has not always been the go-to shape for a dancer. Very often, we think of a ballerina. We think of a long, lanky dancer with long arms and long legs and yes, muscle, because you have to be able to do things, but not enough muscle that, you can see it really. I mean, and I feel like my issues with body image as a dancer started at a very young age. Our dance teacher used to lift up our shirts to look at our stomachs and would say, "Oh, not ready yet," to wear a crop top for a costume at the age of 7 and 8. So from a very young age, I had this, image of what I was supposed to look like, or, what I was supposed to do to look like that. And then it just sort of got worse as time went on, going through puberty, and your body's changing, and you're like, I don't even know what I need to do to be in shape. So I sort of have always dealt with that. But when I switched to going to a ballet school, in this moment, it had nothing to do with my teachers, but everything to do with me. And we look in a mirror all day, every day, and you're constantly comparing yourself to the person next to you as much as you don't want to. But when I started going to my ballet school, there were very few girls who were my age, just because I feel like a lot of people tend to quit dance in high school. And so a lot of the girls were much younger than me, and I was like, they were all sticks, and I was like, I I don't look like that. I have muscles. I have a butt. I have quads. I have, all of those things. And I wanted to do whatever I could to not have those things. So I definitely had an eating disorder in that time. And then, trying to come back from that is also very difficult. And I don't know, I can't say that this was everyone's experience, but I definitely thought that was usually the reason as to why I didn't get a job. Like, I would very often think, oh, well, I didn't get that because I don't have the body of a dancer. I'm not in good enough shape. I'm not thin enough. I don't have the things that they're looking for. But I mean, throughout my whole life, I remember specifically someone coming up to me in an elevator, someone that I very much looked up to and saying, "You're a beautiful dancer, but I would never want to see you not get the job because you're not in shape. Like, I think you should work on that." And so, or directors sitting you down in the front of the room and saying, "You look soft." And during that time, like, I was working so hard. I was trying so hard to look my best, to be in shape, but it's also really long hours in the studio, and your body, your body's like, how can I keep up with spending
fuel?
Yeah, exactly. And as dancers, there's so often that we receive that feedback, but we also don't get help in how to do that. What should I be eating? How should I be fueling my body? And I totally think that that's different for every person, and I am so thankful that I didn't feel good when I was like 20. I was like, why do my body didn't feel good. My spirit didn't feel good, and I was constantly trying to eat less to look better. And I was like, this is not sustainable. And at that moment, it was, dance is more important to me in the fact that I want to be able to do it, and I want to have a body that is able to do it. And in that time, I really shifted my mindset to, I want to be strong. I don't want to be thin. I want to be able to do my job well because I'm fueling myself properly. And now, thankfully, I, have really found what works for me, I feel. And I feel like I finally eat, real meals and enjoy eating and fueling my body to do what I love to do, not stopping myself from enjoying, all aspects of life.
Yeah, and it sounds like your wake-up call came when the very thing that you lived for became unsustainable to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing to remember, too.
Yeah.
That when, we're feeling the need to over-restrict, that we're actually taking possibilities and joy and life away from ourselves.
But I would also love to say, it's very slow, but the dance world is definitely shifting. Mm-hmm. And I love that, dancers are being celebrated for, their bodies, no matter what they look like. It's not about the shape of your body. It's about the dance. And
you see a noticeable shift from when you were young?
I think so.
Good.
I mean, yeah, it's dance isn't restrictive to one body type. And when you see dancers with different body types, you realize oh wow, they can do that because they have muscles. They can do that because their legs are really strong.
Yeah.
And watching that on stage is, to me, beautiful. You know, of course, we're still going to be in shape, and we're still going to, you're dancing so many hours a day, that's inevitable. But yeah, just celebrating all bodies.
And the audience is so here for that. Because I even know when I'm in the audience watching you all, there are people that are like, yes, strong. Yeah. They are all there for the athletic, prowess that you all have and exhibit. I mean, it's really something to behold and celebrate. So I'm so glad that from your perspective, it feels that shift. You feel that shift and it's tangible.
Yeah.
So that's good to hear.
Still a ways to go, but
Yeah.
we're getting there. We're getting there. Progress has definitely been made.
Yeah, and I'm so glad as your friend, because I feel like even when we met, that was such a heavy thing for you to hold, and I can see the lightness in you now, and it's so great. And just seeing you live out your dream is so, so wonderful. I would love to talk about how you manage and balance your personal life and your tour life. I imagine because you're dating someone that's on tour, maybe that helps and makes it a little easier, I imagine.
Yes.
Kind of.
No.
It's just so hard to be separated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my boyfriend is also on a national tour, and the difficulty comes in when our time off doesn't align. So, I am usually on tour from January through May, but then I'm in New York usually for most of the summer and most of the winter. We usually go away for a few weeks in the fall for international tour. But, I would still say my majority of my time is spent in New York City. So it definitely has been a little bit more difficult with him not coming back to New York City at all, essentially.
Because his tour just doesn't have those kinds of breaks.
Yeah, so his tour is a 1-year contract, well, even more, like a 14-month contract with no time back in New York. They just go from city to city across America for those 14 months. They can request for weeks off or time off, but it's not like Ailey in the sense of we get layoff time. Mm-hmm. So usually in the summer we get 2 to 3 weeks off, and then after our season in New York in the winter we get 2 weeks off. So, I have those specific times where I have my weeks off, and he's usually still working during those weeks. But we've made it work. I go visit. It's been great. I've been extra traveling this year. So every time I have a week off, usually instead of going back to New York, I'll go visit him wherever he is. It worked out this week specifically because I'm in LA and he's in Costa Mesa, which is only 30 miles. So that has been really great. But yeah, I mean, I'm not mad about it because it really, I feel like, has tested us very early on. Mm-hmm. So, and he's doing his dream job and I'm doing my dream job. I would never want to stop him from doing that. And I know he would never want to stop me from doing what I'm doing. And so I think the level of understanding is just beyond. And I sort of think that's why it happened for me with another artist, mm-hmm. just because we both get it.
Yeah, and you need that mutual respect.
Yeah. The family time has been a little bit harder because now I'm like, well, I only have 1 week and I want to see him, but I also want to see the family. So that aspect of it has definitely been hard. But we're making it work. We're making it work. It's just, it's sad sometimes, being on the road can be very lonely. Mm-hmm. But I also love my coworkers, so that makes it fun. It's like compartmentalizing your different aspects of your life. Being on tour is one aspect, and then I get to go see my boyfriend, and that's one aspect, and then I go see my family, and, it's just every time is sort of different, but the FaceTime obviously makes that better too.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
That helps. You've reached your dream career and you're so young. We hope, and I hope, to keep watching you dance for 10, 15 more years, however long. But where would you see yourself after your dance career, after your touring career is over? Do you ever think about that and what you want to do?
Yeah. Someone actually asked me yesterday, Deidre, would you ever want to be on Broadway? And I was like, yes, absolutely. That is truly a dream of mine. I would love to be on Broadway. However, I cannot sing at all, literally zero. And I know it's funny because I'm sitting next to Julia Ray, but I wish I could sing like Julia Ray. That would make my life a lot easier. But no, like I literally cannot sing at all. So, but you know, dance shows on Broadway are becoming way more prevalent.
Totally.
So, hopefully, when I finish my touring career,
I can so see it because your performance ability is so ready for the Broadway stage. I mean, you are really captivating. Like I always tell you that you have the it factor, and I know I'm your friend, but like unbiasedly, I think if I went and saw you perform without being your friend, I'd be like, that girl has it. And I wouldn't be able to keep my eyes off you. So I see Broadway in your future, and I can't wait to be there.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, the girl was like, you're just so loud. I was like, okay, thank you.
Actually, I love that.
Yeah, but I was like, you're not wrong.
No.
I am.
Yeah.
So.
And you take up so much space for your little tiny frame. I mean.
We also were talking about voiceovers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my voice is very distinct.
Yeah.
And I am very animated.
Yeah.
So I would love to do something like that. And I told her, I was like, you know, I keep getting these random emails about voiceover classes. So I think I should probably take advantage of one of those.
Yeah, and it sounds like no matter what you do, this will always, performing and telling stories will always be a part of what you do.
Yeah.
What advice, as we wrap this conversation up, would you give to a young girl who has a dream like you'd had?
I would really just say literally never give up. Like, having auditioned for my dream company 7 times, like even when I say it, it doesn't sound that long. It felt like an eternity.
I think it does sound long. I think give yourself credit.
Okay.
You also showed up 7 times. You showed up 7 times.
I did.
After hearing no.
Yeah. But like literally never give up, because timing is everything. Like you never know when it might work out in your favor. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean don't train hard. You know, you have to train hard. You have to. You have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, to put yourself out there, to make connections. Never let a connection die. Like literally never, because you never know when someone, you know, puts in a good word for you or helps you get a job. You just never know. So I would really say, you know, keep connections alive and never give up. Like I hate watching people, younger dancers, who like get so overwhelmed with the feeling of I can't do it or I don't know if I can do it. Because it really is the I don't know. That's the scariest part, mm-hmm. you know, even especially after you go to the audition and you're waiting for the answer. That I don't know is the most nerve-wracking. The audition was fine, but the wait is definitely the hardest part. So, you know, even the impossible is possible. You never know. You really don't. So just never give up. Keep showing up. Keep trying your best. And it will be hard, but it's all possible. And it will work out how it should.
And I'm going to quote you from earlier that you might end up happier with how your journey went, even though it doesn't look how you thought it would look.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a powerful statement. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, Deidre. It was so good to talk to you.